tribal or regional.
All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Daybreak this morning. It's now time for the newspaper review, and we will be reeling out headlines, major stories from the front page of the national dailies this morning. We'll begin with Daily Trust today, and we have the lead story here that says INEC holds emergency meeting today over Adamawa. We have writers that says results coalition move to Abuja, prosecute REC says Yadudu, electoral body decries attack on commissioners, Atiku, CDD, Yaga, others react, and you can find details of that story on page 4 from the top of the page there. Senate, APC secures 59 seats, PDP 36, LP 8, NNPP 2, SDP 2. Details of that on page 13. On subsidy palliative, federal government to pay 5,000 to 10 million households for 6 months. And this story you can actually find on page 23. APC's Idris wins Kebbi governorship election on page 14. And there is a pictorial there of Sudanese greet soldiers loyal to Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan in the Red Sea city of Port Sudan yesterday. And moving on from that particular pictorial, oral cancers kill 764 Nigerians annually, says federal government. Many killed in fresh attack on Zangon Kataf. And Buhari, Chadian leader, expressed concern over Sudan crisis. And these are some of the stories on Daily Trust newspaper.
Next paper we're looking at is the Punch newspaper, and it carries this major story on the front page. Binani declaration, Adamawa REC under fire, faces INEC panel today. And it comes with riders here that says APC, PDP clash, REC faces 36 months imprisonment. INEC annuls Binani's declaration as governor-elect, says REC usurps returning officers' power. Atiku Fintri PDP kick, Adamawa APC hails Binani as supporters jubilate. Moving towards the bottom of the front page there, Lagos, Ondo, Bayelsa lead states in rising inflation. And flood sweeps 4-year-old boy away in Lagos. Gunmen abduct Ogun traffic official on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. And at the very top of the front page there, aviation unions to ground flights, airports today. And Nigeria's 96% revenue used to service debt in 2022, and that is according to the World Bank. And finally, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, Buhari meets governors, EFCC chair, others in Saudi Arabia. Details of that story can be found on page 18. These are the major stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. Investors lose 601 billion naira in 4 days. Naira falls amid pressure. And we also have Chidi Amuta got it all wrong on Obi, says Alake. UBA raised profit to 61.4 billion naira in first quarter. Jaiz Bank grows profit by 68.5%. Now below the name mask there, we have 3.4 billion naira debt. Ex-council chairman, councillors reject Makinde's payment plan. The lead story here says drama suspends uproar over REC's declaration of Binani. And we have riders that says INEC rejects Adamawa REC's action to decide governor-elect tomorrow. PDP, Atiku, others cry foul. We also have APC controls Senate with 59 seats, PDP 36, Labour Party 8, NNPP, SDP 2 each, APGA, YPP 1 each. We also have Idris is Kebbi governor-elect. And on the footnotes there, 22 feared, killed, houses razed in fresh attack on southern Kaduna community. These are some of the stories on the Nation.
Next, we'll take a look at the Guardian newspaper, and the major story reads, near bankrupt states, unviable projects await 18 new governors. And that story can be found on page 6. The breakdown of that can be found on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Aviation workers begin warning strike today over COS and welfare. Details of that can be found on page 7. Intrigues as Otedola takes a strategic position in blue chip assets, and that is on the business page, which is page 15. Drama as INEC disowns REC, voids Binani's declaration, that is on page 6 of the Guardian. And freedom of expression, a thin line between hate speech, sedition and treason. You can find that on page 4. And at the very bottom of the page there, amid postponement calls, MPC insists on May 3 census. And you can find that story on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Guardian this morning.
All right, up next is Vanguard newspaper, and we have the lead story still on Adamawa polls, Gubar poll, drama as the REC fights RO over declaration of Binani as winner. We have riders. INEC nullifies Binani's declaration as a governor-elect by Adamawa REC. Adamawa's REC's actions provocative. Buhari should intervene, says Finteri. Finteri 1, PDP insists, dismisses purported declaration of APC candidate, demands arrest of REC. There's a plot to undermine democracy, provoke violence in Adamawa, says Atiku. We also have on the rising unemployment, over 81,000 pension contributors lose jobs in 2 years. Riders here says withdraw 47 billion from pension fund to cushion impact. Economic shocks, Japa syndrome, fueling job losses, says pension operators. And we also have on fuel subsidy, IMF reluctant to interfere with Nigeria's decision. And we have more on the top of the page there. Borrowing, OPS rejects IMF's tax increase call, says prescription will kill businesses, worsen poverty. Insists Nigeria doesn't need $800 million loan for subsidy removal palliatives. We also have Labour Party crisis, NLC seeks interpretation of 2 court orders. More stories on Vanguard, supplementary polls, how Tambuwal Wamako won Senate seats in Sokoto, 33 feared, scored, injured as bandits attack Zangon Kataf. We also have Osimhen in sports makes U-turn, insists he's happy at Napoli. The Olu of Warri decorates Oma Oyewoma as a new Ologbotere. We also have UBA's profit rises 38.2% to 61.4 billion naira in first quarter 2023.
Next newspaper we're looking at is the Nigerian Tribune, and in keeping what we have seen so far, the major story reads INEC voids announcement of Binani, PDP demands arrest of Adamawa REC. And Riders says his actions provocative, according to Finteri. Yaga CDD condemns REC's action, says it undermines Electoral Act and other laws. Now, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, tax hike will bring hardship to individuals, businesses, that is according to NECA. And court deposes first-class traditional ruler in Ondo 5 years after installation. Moving towards the top of the front page there, below the nameplate, Melaye wins Kogi PDP governorship primary. APC's Idris wins Kebbi governorship election. And still talking politics, Tambuwal clinches Sokoto South senatorial seat. Now to matters of security, where at the very top of the front page, bandits kill 22 in fresh attack in southern Kaduna. And irate youth kill 1, set 64 houses ablaze in Bauchi. And NDLEA arrests Lekki businessman over illicit drugs from US, intercepts drug consignment in winter jackets, body lotion at Lagos airport. Now, these are the major stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's take a look at Leadership newspaper. We have at the top of the page there, bandits kill 30 race houses in southern Kaduna. We also have more stories. Publish your assets now, Serap tells PMB of Oshibajo. The lead story talks about Adamawa governorship elections. And then we also have more stories. INEC false report on Rivers presidential results, says it's prejudicial. We also have NECA disagrees with IMF over call for increased taxes. These are some of the stories on Leadership newspaper.
All right, the next paper we're looking at is the national economy, and this is the major story on the front page. Rising interest rates, Nigerian banks may consider cross-border expansion. That is the major story on the front page of the Nigerian economy. And going towards the bottom of the front page, they are utilizing unclaimed funds in dormant accounts. And that is a story that can be found on page 25. How Nigeria can build farmers' resilience to disaster shocks. And at the very bottom of the front page, there's Silicon Valley Bank, why regulators must prioritize risk management. That is according to the NDIC. Now, these are the stories on the front page of the national economy.
All right, let's take a look at Business Day next. Nigerian politicians, that's the big story, struggle to tame social media generation. We also have more stories beside it. Writers that says how AI deepfakes are deployed to shape political outcomes. And here are ways AI can benefit Nigerian politicians. Now, we also have corporate debt jumps 133% as Nigerian firms battle cash crunch. Naira gains as election dollars circulate. We also have federal government, World Bank arm in talks over infrastructure financing, and Idris wins Kebbi election, crisis rocks Adamawa. And these are some of the stories on Business Day newspaper. All right, so with that, we have come to the end of, reading out some of these stories from the front page of the national dailies. And we already have our guest in the studio with us to analyze some of this story. Umar Suleiman, his public affairs analyst. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's another Monday morning.
Yes, indeed. And one of the stories, I know it's actually funny to you right about now, and is on every headline of the newspaper, is the Adamawa election. And nobody's even talking about Kebbi, nobody's talking about other states' supplementary elections, but Adamawa State, what is actually going on?
I tried so hard to stay away from the elections this weekend. Honestly, genuinely, I didn't want to hear anything about it. So practically what I did, I didn't even go to the Situation Room. I stayed at home. I watched Prime Video, slept, and did whatever it is I needed to do over the weekend. But then I started getting calls yesterday morning, or early afternoon. How far is this true? Did Binani win? Because a lot of people actually rely on me to get information. And I was like, okay, I don't know how that's possible, because if we look at before the supplementary elections, Fintiri was leading by 30,000 votes, but let me confirm. So I picked my phone and I saw messages from other people that were, from the Situation Room, like, oh, this is what happened. I was shocked. Now, this is a gross violation of the law in all ramifications. And it's really, really sickening that something like that could happen within the commission. The essence of, or for me, one of the bedrocks of why the supplementary elections were very pertinent is because we have suffered a great mistrust with the commission after the presidential election on 25th of February 25th, and then that of March 18th, there's the gubernatorial elections. So this was more or less like a way for the commission to retrace its steps and see how they can bring some sanity to the polity. But for that to happen right under the commission's watch is quite appalling, extremely appalling. I would remember that the INEC chairman has actually said severally that there is a rigorous way of ensuring that INEC staff are vetted, trained and retrained, and there is this way of enshrining the concept or the tenets of integrity and ethics in their work. But for that not to have, we've not seen that. So yesterday was somewhat of a shocker. Now, to go beyond that even is to even see that, okay, this guy came out, whoever he is, the rec, came out without the result sheet, nothing, just utter a statement, declaration of some sort, and left. And Aisha Binani came out to give an acceptance speech. It was too much of a drama yesterday to actually watch. It's really, really, it's sad that that's the situation that we found ourselves in the country. And we're hoping that that swift action that they took is something that actually have to also commend. The fact that immediately they put out a statement
a
to...
disclaimer.
as a disclaimer to say this is not from the commission, this is a singular action by one person, and we're going to get to the bottom of this, and these people have been invited to Abuja to see how this can actually be sorted. So we're looking forward to how that will turn out.
Well, despite the disclaimer, or in spite of the disclaimer, a lot of people actually of the opinion that the damage has already been done to INEC. But how much damage has this done to INEC's reputation? You actually talked about what happened in the general elections and after that, and how people were really not happy with what INEC did, and this was an opportunity for them to redeem themselves. How much damage has this done to their reputation?
I do not envy the next INEC chairman. I feel really bad for whoever he or she would be, because it's going to do, the person would have to do a lot of damage control and reputational repair when they get into office. More time for that than even the next 2027 general elections. It is pathetic. It is sad that that's the situation that we're in. But I genuinely do not envy them. INEC has really dented itself. The current commission under the leadership of Professor Mahmoud, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, ran one of the best preparatory campaigns of an election. Everybody was impressed up until the election started. When the election started, it was downhill from there. It has really been pathetic. It's like gravity happened, and everything that they've set in place to work, we just want to know where it all went wrong, because this is not what we expected. As someone who works in the development space, one of the things I think I come to find is that this is one of the most easily accessible INEC chairman we've had in a while. He was very open to the civil societies. He was willing to work. He collaborated. But things just changed. This was not what we planned. So this was not what he planned. Let me put it that way even. And we just don't know where it went wrong. We're hoping that a lot of probing is going to go into this, just to ensure that those people who are found wanting as to how things got so deplorable can be brought to book.
But do you also think that coming to Abuja is actually a solution? Because like Ibrahim actually said, the damage has already been done. A lot of people out there, even journalists yesterday, were posting that, she was the winner and everything. So the damage has already been done. Do you think there would be a solution then coming to Abuja? What happens if there's none?
I think there's no finality to anything. So when something bad happens, there's always a way to come back from it. So I think that's what somewhat of what the commission is currently doing. Coming to Abuja is actually nice because it's a neutral ground. So bring everybody away from their strongholds and wherever it is that they control and their comfort zones, and bring them to a neutral ground where they can have decent conversation and find out what. First things first, I'm still in shock as to how that thing because I'm trying to make sense of it. It's I think I said this last week. It's senseless corruption. When you do something so pathetic, where were you thinking from? Because it is so clear that this was not your prerogative. Even if, let's even go beyond, this was not your prerogative. I expect you to be smarter in house. Maybe you come with a result and say this party won this, but you cannot just up and just go to the center and just say ABC candidate has won by virtue of winning the most votes. Okay, how many votes did the person win? What's the spread? Nothing. You just came in and uttered the declaration and left. It doesn't make sense.
Without any worries.
It doesn't make sense. But I think another thing that we need to address is the mob action that happened afterwards, because a different professor who looks like Professor Udu was attacked, and that's something that we actually need to actually decry. However bad, however terrible the action of somebody is, whether it's a government actor, whether it's a state or a non-state actor, there are legal means of seeking redress. The courts are there. The commission is already taking steps that we applaud. People should not take laws into their own hands. I know that you are angry. Everybody is angry about what happened, but you should not go out and think that you cannot be judge, jury, and executioner. Then if everybody does that, then the country will be in chaos. It will be in mayhem. And that's really sad and pathetic. I think it's just right that we put that out there.
All right, well, let's move slightly away from that because we can talk about this all day. Actually, we have been talking about it since yesterday and all day as well. Let me talk about something that it's quite dear to your heart. Let's talk about subsidy.
Oh yes.
Let's talk about subsidy and the palliatives the federal government says now is going to give out. So we're seeing on the front page of the Daily Trust that the federal government is to pay 5,000 naira to 10 million households for 6 months. Because the last time we talked about this, we were talking about how they were going to how they were actually going to do that, and so now they've shown you their plan. They want to give 5 grand to 10 million households for 6 months.
That's them working on the assumption that each household has 5 people inside, so covers for the 50 million. Covers for the 50 million.
Exactly.
That's a very smart logic. That's very, you see, this administration have never ceased to amaze me with how they roll out absurd policies and then they make it sound so smart. Alan Smith once said, just because someone said something so smart in fancy man language does not mean that it's not stupid. And that's the situation we find ourselves today. I do not think Nigeria has had a more terrible economic team than we've had in the last 8 years. And it's one of the things that we're actually hoping that Tinubu can actually seek to correct. From the CBN governor down to the finance minister, it has really been a very bad decisions that they've made throughout the entire tenure. So I don't know how the whole system is going to correct itself eventually, because the damage, I don't know how much of it, I can't even see. I'm an ordinary citizen, I'm not even an economic specialist, and I know for a fact that the damage that these guys have created is so serious and so severe that it will take a lot to actually.
So you're saying the 5K now to 10 million households in
it doesn't make sense.
Like
Still doesn't make sense.
5K a month.
That still doesn't make sense.
Themselves out.
Sort what? Sort what exactly? Do you know how a liter of fuel is 195?
And after subsidy removal, it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse. They're looking at an average of at least 500 naira. Because some people argue 400 to 700. So let's put it at an average of 500 naira. That's the so that means you buy 10 liters.
10 liters, exactly.
You know, just to do what exactly?
Yeah, maybe they start black market business.
You know, supporting
even the Nigerians
SME
actually saying that there's no need for any subsidy palliative.
Yes, there isn't. I strongly believe that there isn't. You can't address issues by addressing effects and not causes. I've said this like 1 million times. That's why he said subsidy is so dear to my heart. But I've said it like 1 million times. The easiest way to sort this problem is ensure that there's stable power in the country. People should not have to pay premium price for fuel to generate primary source of power. I'm not going to go buy fuel at 500 naira to fuel my gen. Doesn't make sense, because the ripple effect of removal of fuel subsidy and the increase of fuel is that production costs will go up. If production costs go up, purchase will also go up, and purchasing power is so low in this country right now. When you have over 100 million or 160 million people living in multidimensional poverty, I am broke. Even me myself.
Like if a lot of businesses would actually shut down.
A lot of businesses will have to shut because production will go up so significantly. Do you know? This is the Daily Trust office complex. You can, if you speak to your procurement team, you can imagine how much you guys consume in terms of fuel and diesel at the end of the month. It is a lot of money.
I think over the weekend, I actually saw a report that says, 20 million small businesses actually shut down due to the fuel issue.
It is too much. It's I don't know. Like I don't know how they think. Honestly, sometimes they do something really dope. And then you'll be like, okay, this is really good. And then you do something so absurd that covers what they did, that makes it so useless all of a sudden. Because I still think that the EPSRA is actually a very good act of parliament. That's what the president actually signed into that's the new Electricity Power Sector Reform Act. But to come back and say this is a way to caution the effect of, it is really, really sad. And if you look at it, even nobody can actually say for sure how much fuel will be after subsidy removal, because there's so many variables you have to put into consideration. Because we still do international trade in dollar exchange, there will still be the idea of how much is a dollar to a naira. There will be the import cost. There's so many things you have to put into consideration before you can actually decide on how much it will become.
So basically, it's just speculation now that people are...
All of it is speculation. And one of the easiest ways to do it, maybe, is to transfer the power to the hands of, to open a free market of trade, of import. So if you meet basic requirements as set by maybe NNPC, then you can actually import fuel as well. But why are we even importing in the first place? That's a whole different conversation. But if that happens, maybe competition can drive down the price. But then again, there's a problem with that, because then the private sectors can create a cabal system that allows for uniform pricing, and then they will be the ones controlling price.
Yeah, but that's
the same thing with what the market has.
That's the argument to and for the deregulation of the whole situation.
Deregulation of the whole system. So there's so many issues so many things to consider, so many things we have to look at. And I don't know if the government doesn't, there's a way you speak from a position of privilege. I think that's what's wrong with the government currently. You speak from a position of privilege that you're so detached from the reality of every other person that this may affect negatively. The finance minister is not going to, there will never be a time till she dies that she will have to stand in queue for fuel. Same thing goes for the president, same thing goes for the CBN governor. All of these things come to them so easily. So they feel like they've been so detached from the reality of how Nigerians suffer for these things that they don't understand what it means. So they need to make smarter decisions, honestly.
Okay. Well, let's move on to Vanguard's big story here that talks about the rising unemployment and how over 81,000 pension contributors actually lost their jobs in 2 years.
I saw that, and you can sort of imagine what that means for the pension system, because these monies are usually rotated, invested, and then returns and gains comes back. And what they mean by 1,000 pension contributors is that now salary earners have lost their jobs, so there's nobody remitting money in those accounts anymore. It's really, really... And another thing we need to actually look at is how many organizations are actually following that statutory regulation of pension remission. Because I got to find that a lot of organizations don't do that, and that's something we have to look into. Because it's especially for staff, and I will say this to every staff out there: if you work somewhere, please try as much as possible to ensure that your organization is remitting your tax and also remitting your pension money. This is a very, very important thing for each Nigerian to have. But it's 1,000 people is a lot, because the unemployment rate is actually going so far up, and beyond unemployment there's underemployment as well. I know people who still receive 40,000 naira monthly, and this is before tax, and they will still be taxed from those monies. I know people who still receive like under 100k, and owing to the fact of how inflation has actually taken its toll on the economy, and how there's a rising price and cost of living, standard of living is dropping so significantly. It's why I still say that this is one of the worst economic things that we've had in this country. And I hope that the president-elect, when he gets into office, can actually do something to fix it.
We're talking about economic decisions and, of course, their consequences. There's been a standoff now between aviation unions and of course, the government, and now they're threatening to shut down airports, and that's supposed to start today. And what's your take on the whole back and forth?
This repartee between the aviation workers and Hadith Sirika has been a long battle that has been coming for a very long time, and I'm hoping that it's something that can be a thing of the past. I remember that the last time that this happened, a friend of mine was stranded in Ethiopia with his family, his son who is under 5, and his daughter as well, with him and his wife. We need to do something. We need to do better. It's so funny how almost every aspect of the government is deteriorating at a very fast pace, especially in the last 2 years. If you've noticed, between 2021 and now, it has been worse. Before now, they had a lot of things to say, things were getting better in the polity. But between 2021 and now, it's been really, really bad. And we need to actually do better than what we need. Because then, I remember the time they had to sign in, was it a law or an act that they did some time ago that actually created a lot of issues. And now they're still talking about their packages that have not been given to them. And the airport is generating more money now, if I'm not mistaken. The only money was now it's taxing people to park.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know that every time you pay at the toll gates to get in. You pay under 500 per hour to park at the airport. Yeah. If you spend another additional 1 minute to that, you pay another additional 200 naira. It's a lot of money. So that means then there's the fan taxi. That's thing that I feel like is a robbery system. I think that's a robbery system because a government-owned business cannot be charging more than a private-owned business.
Exactly.
You use taxpayers' money to set up a business, and then you're charging more than private players.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. Government should have no business in business. But what's happening really with the NCA is something that needs to be checked. This honest conversation should be had. But then again, I feel like most of the state actors currently in this government are just looking to leave very soon. They don't have any interest in doing anything significant. So except for those who are looking for more appointments or reappointments of their current positions. So I don't know how they will sort this out, but Hadisvik has already done a very good job in the aviation space. If we look at it critically, some airlines are actually falling short of so many issues that they are having. Airway again, quite recently, almost crashed, which is a problem because they were suspended before. What were the metrics that was used before license was issued back to them again to keep flying? So many things that needs to be done really to brush up that system, from the staffing to the infrastructure and on and on.
All right, well, while we're still on the issue of aviation, this has absolutely nothing to do with the headlines. I just want to get your take on this Nigeria Air. They said it's going to start by May, before May.
They've given a new date again?
I think I heard something somewhere.
Oh, well, they said April last year. Before that, they said January the previous year.
Yes.
And that's when they spent over 100 million for logo.
Exactly.
I don't know what to call that thing anymore. For me, it's beginning to look like a Ponzi scheme. Like a way of just, we're going to do it. Then they will put in money and then they will mop out the money. I'm like, there's a problem. It needs to change, because I think the last time the part of the issue was the private actors were really angry at the fact that they were trying to get Ethiopian Air to manage it, and that became a problem for them. I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. It's so funny how we keep having these brilliant ideas as to things that we need to do, and then we keep falling short of them. Because one thing about a national airline carrier is that it really helps the Nigerian system. I'll give you an example. I was speaking to someone. I was at the World Youth Forum in 2019. The World Youth Forum in 2019. This is a forum that holds in Egypt, with over 8,000 people from across the globe coming for free, 100% funded. This is the largest gathering of people of free conference. So I was talking to one of the organizers, somebody in the organizing team. Why don't you guys think is a lot of money to spend? And she was telling me, her name is Dr. Sarah. Dr. Sarah said, we know what we're doing in Egypt. She said, out of the 8,000 people selected to come for this conference, on an average, they've got to find, because the conference started in 2016, I think, that they've got to find that only about 3,000 people actually actively participate in the conference. So they found all 8,000 people to come. They know that the bottleneck to people for people to travel is transport and accommodation. So they found these 8,000 people to come. They might not participate in the conference. The remaining 5,000 will go do sightseeing. They'll spend money in the economy. So the economy will grow. So for them, the conference is good. They sit down there, they have decent, honest conversations on how to amplify voices and whatnot. But then there's economic activity going on so rapidly. Egypt Air is owned by the government, so they fly everybody for free. Only very few countries where Egypt Air doesn't go to, then they will have to pay for flights. The hotels, they waive tax for them, so they house everybody for free. So the government is really not spending a lot, but they are getting economic activity. That's giving them money.
So it's a win-win
It's a win-win for them. So we come up with these amazing ideas sometimes in this country, and then we just piss on it, for lack of better terminology.
All right. Oh, well, I actually wish we could continue this particular segment. Quite an interesting one, but sadly we have to wrap up at this moment. Thank you so much, Umar Suleiman, for joining us to analyze some of these stories this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
We appreciate it. All right, so with that, we'll take a break, and when we come back at the top of the hour, the show continues. Stick around.
But in a situation where you find